7:02 on Wednesday, June 11th, 2025, and I will call the Finance Committee meeting to order. Once again. In the room is Andrea Mainville, the town accountant, Tom Parkin from the Finance Committee, Andy Olderman from the Finance Committee, Greg Fexfield, the town administrator, Peter Twining from the Finance Committee, Maury Creighton from the Finance Committee, and myself, Sarah Mellish from the Finance Committee. Dean Nahadas is not attending. I thought Gar was, but he may be on the late side or something's come up.
Dodgy. Leave space.
Okay, the first item on the agenda is to review the third quarter report. Did people have a chance to review that, and are there questions or comments?
And trying to remember question. Budget column is that quarterly budget?
I'm just curious on the revenue, there's a line item, it's like line 32 called miscellaneous receivables, non-receivables. And this year it's like 27,000 and last year it was a lot more, like 218,000.
Yeah, so that's actually miscellaneous recurring, and non-recurring. So like miscellaneous recurring, for example, we have this SRO payment that we get, so that's some recurring payment that we'll get in, that'll fall into that category. Non-reoccurring, it's things like, so last year, the reason why it was so high is we had that sale of the fire truck, that was $180,000. So that's where that's high, and that's where that goes, since it was just a one-time payment.
So when I look at local receipts and I think about what's been proposed and the way to estimate them in the next year,
Mhm.
the 95% rule, does that make sense? Is that, as you look at that and then look at the receipts, where we were at the end of the third quarter, I know it's not the fourth quarter. It'll be a lot more interesting at that point. Is that a good approach? Is that you?
I believe so, I'm comfortable with that.
Sure.
Yes, I believe the 95% makes sense, not including, some of those big variable ones like that investment income.
I think the way
That,
we worded it was at the discretion of the finance director.
Yes.
But if it was other than 90, if it was less than 95%, there had to be a reason.
Yeah,
Right.
I'm just
Yeah.
asking about the concept.
Okay.
The
Yes.
concept, as you work through each quarter, that seems to make sense. We were gonna be talking about harbor master expenses, so we'll get to that when we get to that agenda.
there's just two notes I wanted to put on this in case it comes up. Under general fund expenditures, if you scroll all the way down to like the tax liens. As of March, it showed a deficit of $2,453, and I'm only requesting a transfer of $1,000 because we had two properties that were gonna go into tax sale and be recorded, but they paid at the very, very last minute, so we got reimbursed back that money. So that's why I only needed $1,000. And then for the enterprise fund revenues, I'm working with a DPW right now to because they have that new fee set up for the capital fee. But right now in my reports, it's lumped into the utility receivables.
That's the water meter.
Yeah,
meter?
yeah.
So we
Yep.
can't tell how much is usage.
So right now, I think this is accurate. I have to double check it. I'm going through the process to make sure these reports are right. But as of May 20th, we received about $73,000. So I will be breaking out in the future. I just didn't.
So you're gonna create a line under the enterprise fund for the fees collected.
Yes, yeah, because I want to track that because we just issued a ban this month. 'Cause
Yeah.
of interest rates. excited about that. And so next year, when we go to roll the ban, I wanna use that capital fee to pay it down.
So Andrea, on the expenditures, general fund expenditures, you marked some in yellow.
I did.
Any notable comments other than it seems to be implying that the spending is a lot more rapid and.
Yeah, those were where my concerns were at that time, the end of March.
Talk about them a little bit, maybe?
We will, a lot of them ended up needing transfers.
Oh,
Right. Well, okay, you're gonna catch in the transfer,
Yeah.
okay.
But I just wanna make you guys aware of that.
And
that's March.
snow. Amazing. I didn't think it was that snowy the winter, I guess maybe I.
It wasn't, we had 14 snow events, which means like even though it didn't snow, they had, if we had ice, like where it rained and then it froze and then it rained again. And then the like water didn't know where to go so we had a lot of salting and sanding. This year.
The last storm we had, which was just a couple of inches, I think I paid $940 for snow removal. And it-
Wow.
Right.
Yeah, up my driveway, and it was plowing, sanding and salting. And then the rain came and washed
Washed
away,
away.
and then they had to come
Yeah.
back in the morning
Yeah.
when the ice was forming.
Given your driveway, that's a smart expenditure.
Exactly. Anything else?
Sounds like the questions will be when we talk about the transfers.
Yes.
And it looked like all the revenues were pretty decent. Except for perhaps the water.
Water's doing better than last year, so.
Oh, is that, okay. Well, not the spring, 'cause
Been pretty wet.
irrigation systems are sad. Mine came on today, but it doesn't come on for weeks.
I always marvel at auto excise. People buying cars on a regular basis, it looks like. I mean, in the third quarter, we were at 94% of our projected. Looks like
Or we
that.
get most of it in February.
Oh, you do? Oh,
February.
that's the date.
Yeah, February,
Oh,
March.
okay, there's
You're
still that.
doing,
That's
There's
due.
next to those other
Got
ones.
it. I thought it was going to proceed.
I don't know,
Yeah,
sometime in March,
No, no.
It's very lumpy.
at the same time as water and sewer is doing, I thought you don't put them both on one chain.
And Tom, investment income was lumpy, so that's interest rates, but what should we be doing with that? What is I know you've looked at a bit of the investment arrangements.
Well, there's kind of two directions that I was looking. One is the interest rate account with several bank accounts that generate interest for that account. The other is the investment account, which is for longer term money. That one, I know I promised to get an analysis done of that, but I too retired.
Oh,
And so the system that I was on, I'm not on anymore, and I couldn't get back on it. So I should be able to generate something eventually anyway, but from my own kind of looking at the statements and the way the money is allocated, it seems very appropriate. The asset allocation is appropriate, the equity side of that account is appropriate, and all blue chip, dividend producing sorts of investments. And then the other side of it is individual bonds and fixed income things, and that's perfectly fine too. So that's a very non-scientific analysis of it,
understand.
but it's all copacetic as far as it.
So we ought to be a little more generous in what we estimate for the coming year. This is,
The one thing that I didn't get a handle on is, for the investment accounts that have all these different bank interest rates. It does seem to be quite variable from year to year, what we have, but it doesn't appear to be the investments that are being made, it's the principal, the corpus, which changes.
Yeah.
So if you've got a large balance, you're gonna have a bigger interest rate.
Yeah.
Or a bigger result from the same interest rate as a smaller balance. So that's what I don't really have my head around just yet, why
It was
those,
on the cash flow, I think that
yeah.
all the taxes received go in, and it depends on when people spend on the big projects,
Right.
right? And whether
And the
they,
assessments are due, like July tends to be a really low month for us because we prepay for like the retirement assessment, like other large items. Like debt
OPEB.
service, yeah, OPEB,
yeah,
things like that, and then This year, the Essex feasibility study will be going out in August.
So
It's another big-
to your point, Peter, what I had noticed last year was that big variability. That it isn't what we're investing in, it's the balance.
189% end of third quarter against budget is. Tells me, I understand, it's very, very. Trash, which I view as a regular item, is at 86% of income, that must have some special seasonal element to it.
That's the bags, the orange
Is
bags,
that all back, so people
right?
go for the
Yes.
bags.
Yeah, it's, I mean, holiday time, Thanksgiving, and, yeah, like Fourth of July. It's very popular times. You can imagine.
You think we're pricing the bags correctly?
I believe so, DPW takes a look at that every year.
Okay, are we good on the third quarter report? Okay. I can close it now. The next was the status of grants.
We'll probably look at the end of the year, Andrea. When would you, the fourth quarter, be
Fourth quarter
in
report.
a report form?
Yes,
Yeah, August probably.
yes, yep.
Whenever
Yeah,
we
July
decide to meet,
Mhm.
whenever we decide to
Yeah.
meet.
Yeah, well, I was thinking.
Yeah.
I'll say I'll have it ready in August, so I'm gonna.
Yeah.
Yeah.
August.
Oh, we have a new town administrator, so who knows what will happen. So you gave us
So I gave you,
status of grants. A worksheet, but I didn't fully understand it because I didn't like the negatives and I wondered if that meant we lost the grants.
no, that just means the reimbursements are coming. And some of the grants. I realized I didn't put the budgets in for.
Okay.
Which I should, because some of these like, and I thought I put next notes, but I didn't send that to you, I'm sorry. So like for like cultural council first line, that's an annual grant. So a lot of times like I might not put the amount in. So this year I'm trying to put all those in, same like last two ones on the bottom, the Seaway State Formula Grant, the annual grant that we got from the state. Library State Aid, also an annual grant.
Now, I don't see the brick grant for the culvert on here and I thought that had been awarded. Is that in jeopardy?
Well, it has been awarded.
Yeah,
Oh, it has.
it was
So I thought-
awarded
but-
I thought it was toast.
months ago.
Oh, no, yeah, we had a contract, so quite a while ago. There's still the possibility of being called back.
Okay.
We are encouraged because they did approve the first payment.
Oh, good.
So, one of the last directives that we received is that if you hadn't started to, if construction hadn't started, then it would be called back. And the fact that they have approved a small payment, and nonetheless a payment, we can say the construction, the project has started. And that gives me some encouragement, we're not out of the woods, but
Yeah.
It's been a bit of a roller coaster, but right now I'm feeling a little more encouraged.
And do we have the 91A?
So chapter 91 has a draft permit has been issued. But it has been, someone has appealed the issuance of it. So we are in the process of trying to resolve that and see if we can free that up so that we do get the permit, so that we can proceed. So it's a bit of a race against the clock.
That's what I thought, yeah.
The grant needs to be expended by next spring,
Ooh,
so we have to get into construction in the fall.
right.
So is there,
Some of the issues and the objection. What's the? I'm saying there's not an objection, you call it something else.
An appeal.
An appeal,
of the
an
permit.
appeal of the permit.
So that could be a showstopper. We could delay it so that we miss this fall's construction.
and there's not there's no sense of the window of time that appeal process would take.
Well, because there are multiple layers that we can if you don't win on the first go round, you can keep going.
Given the danger of missing that, can it be expedited as some file for expediting the process?
Well, we can at each level, but we still have to do.
The 40B was expedited and they're not gonna hear that until 2026. It was on the
Right.
fast track. So,
Given that, though, what do you think the probability is? that we
Yeah,
get-
what's your sense of this whole thing?
Well, I'll know a lot more in the next 2 weeks because we're hoping to have some negotiations with
Mhm.
the appealing party. So the lawyers are meeting on Friday, I'll know more after that meeting. The following, there'll be some follow-ups.
so they're looking for money.
From the lawyers.
Is there a particular logic behind the objection or is it?
Butter, the butter.
I know it's the, but I didn't know if there was any,
They-
this is just to
they
hold
use-
things up and make it
It's
more
a-
difficult. Yeah,
It's a leverage.
I appreciate that, I just wanted to be sure I understood that.
So this could get very expensive if it doesn't go through. And then it ultimately fails. And if that becomes an issue, like the roadway fails, what's kind of where the steps then? Like, do it on an emergency basis or?
You do it. It's just, you can't do that full.
Yeah.
Project, there's 6-month lead time
Right.
on precast
materials,
culvert.
everything, yeah.
So, you have to put a Band-Aid on it.
Mhm.
The irony is the abutters are going to be the most impacted by that failure.
Exactly.
You know, so they are gonna bear the brunt of the delay more than anyone. It's just the
They won't like the tax increase when we have to pay it all out of taxes.
Is it a Band-Aid? To reroute traffic or is it, is there
irony.
something?
You put it in temporary.
You put something temporary, yeah.
So are we good on the grant situation? Have we lost any grants?
They're not having grants caught back.
Okay,
no.
okay.
Um,
And do we think we're gonna get the ones for the boats?
Yes, I think relatively optimistic that those will still be available.
Danger with the rotunda?
But the rotunda is problematic. So we shifted things around because we were pretty skeptical of the CZM.
Oh, that's right, yep.
We did apply, we did put in a request, a smaller request. The resolution thought we would. I'm not overly optimistic that will come through. And Seacoast Economic Council, they just announced that they're delaying the grant round until the fall. I just heard that yesterday or today.
That's the one we thought we had in the pocket.
Yes,
Mm.
yes. So it makes me a little more nervous. And then the time, right, it gets, again, this is a project that really needs to happen over the winter. That time is on borrowed time. Those pilings are shot. They are rotten. So it's not gonna take much.
Yeah.
To,
Yeah.
to wipe out that.
That's structure.
So I'm really anxious to have that grant go through. And if there's a need for more money, we try to grab it at the fall special.
Mhm.
I think it's a project that the voters are pretty adamant about. They want to see it done. So,
What would you be looking for in magnitude for a fall meeting if it didn't come? That's rough.
so we're hoping for more from Seacoast. And there's a new cost estimate came in much higher. I'm hoping that was just a very conservative estimate and that the contract will shut the pencil. I'll do better than that.
For all the contractors you're reaching out to responding or some?
So we haven't gone out to them.
Okay.
Estimator work with their contractor. Truth test it. So, but it could be upwards of $1 million more than we anticipated.
Ooh,
So it's all
move.
a lot of moving
Wow.
parts. So, so it's unfortunate to wait and see the situation we're in.
Do you think we'll find out in enough time about the SEC grant? Fall, is this like it to the special?
It's gonna be real time. It's gonna be real time. I don't know, because they haven't announced the date. They just said they're putting it out in the fall. Hopefully it's September. We usually turn them around pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So hopefully it's September, we know by the first.
So is permitting essentially taken care of, this would be construction,
Yeah.
so it'd be mobilization, construction, that work.
Yes. Yes, it's all ready to go.
And the approach is to lift the structure off the pilings and
Correct.
that means.
Lift it up, put it off to the side.
Yeah,
Redo the filings and set it
put it
back.
back on.
Okay, are we finished with grants?
Just one question, Andrea, are these organized in chronological order, or what's the, or by, what's the, maybe by account number?
Yeah, they're organized by account number. So like the first account number 29, like the segments,
Yep.
290 is my grants. The
Okay,
second segment is the function, so like 100 is general government, 200 is public safety, 400 is DPW, 500 is local human services, and 600 is library. And then after that, I have project codes. So I try and keep it by department, so that when I can just send out reports saying, we need to request reimbursement, or how's this grant going? We have a lot of grants this year, like 2-year grants that are coming up
right.
this June. So making sure we spend them and request the funds.
One thing that just would be helpful in the future is if there was a date column, like when these were initiated, when they close out.
Yes, yeah. Good problem with that.
Yes. Yes, you certainly can.
Okay, next is the launch. And you've given us revenues through 6/5/2025. Right,
Consumption. I only had, you had a question about that, like when the capital.
I have two kinds of questions. One was, I recall in the concept, there was, I think maybe starting in the second year, to be some repayment of the initial capital.
Mhm.
Do I recall, is that in our thinking? Is that?
It is, yes.
It is, okay. And the other was that when I looked at the expenses, they were substantially more modest. It's when we set the rates, and I searched around for that proposal, I couldn't find it on my computer, but are there still expenses to be charged to them? Somewhat of the indirect expenses, insurance or whatever?
Yeah, I guess that hasn't like fully been shown the way I record it. So the fees for the launch go to the general fund directly anyway. They don't go into the harbor fund to charge. And so since we charge our health insurance and all those indirect costs already in the general fund,
Yes,
I kind of have it off to the side, so I don't include that.
because I was really trying to look at what it really netted.
Right, right.
I'm having a little trouble.
but it includes revenue for 2 years, but expenses only for last year. Right, because by 6/5, we would have collected the fees for the summer, right?
Yes.
And do we know how much we collected for just this year?
Just this year, about $24,500 we've collected.
Which seems low.
That's low.
That's,
Mm.
so I know you gave us the number like
I think
for,
the number of subscribers is much higher than that. I don't, is he still waiting for payment?
I believe so.
is the subscription $500?
$575.
Uh,
$575. So you got about 130 subscribers roughly.
Looks like more. But I think there's like, we were just talking about the rain and people haven't put their boats in yet, so they haven't like,
Yeah.
I feel like our
Somewhat.
TV kind of like delayed, yeah, kind of slow, so.
I get a handle on how it did in, say, 24. I mean, distinctly with the better.
Sure, I mean, one thing I could do that, if you think it's helpful, is I break this out so I can have fiscal 24, fiscal 25 to
I would
date.
find it very
Just
useful.
keep going year by year, kind of like what I do with the enterprise fund.
Is it possible to
Exactly.
even not do it by fiscal year? And to do it by summer season, like do it from March to September? Because that would be the voting season, right?
It is,
Yeah,
yes.
that would be the
Right.
most helpful to you.
Yeah, and then we
Yeah.
get to see the receipts coming in versus the expenses for any given year.
I'm trying to just test whether we've got something that's self-sustaining and can over time pay back the capital.
Cause we always have troubles with the lifeguards, because it's in two different fiscals.
Sounds
I feel like too, because we keep track of all the salaries, so we have like the, summer kids come on, but then we have to roll the salary schedule over, so we have like.
To the new year, yeah. Not a very good fiscal for some.
Especially we have to see this for your end state.
Yeah, right.
Well, if you do that, really appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, so we've done with the launch. Okay. That brings us on to the reserve transfers.
I'm just gonna ask one question. Did we really use the second launch? I know we have two that we purchased.
Yeah.
One is Liberty's the primary, I recall.
Mm.
Did the sec, I
So
don't know,
there were days when both were used.
there were days?
Yes.
I just wasn't sure I saw the second
Busy
use.
Saturday or something.
Thank you. I'm sorry, go ahead, Guy.
So Andrea has given us 3 pages worth of transfers. I thought, oh yeah. I thought that a way to do it is perhaps to just talk about all of them. And then we'll take one vote for all the FinCom and one vote for all the other transfers so that we're not voting multiple times. Unless somebody wants to put a hold on something. Okay,
I just appreciate a little bit of discussion of each one, I mean, just sort of what's going on.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
Well, number one, for under interdepartmental transfers, we had some extra funds in the library salaries. Moving that to selectmen salaries because we had additional hours and increased rate for our communications coordinator. I don't know, Greg, if you want to speak any more about this, but we had a lot more outreach, we had a lot more special projects. And you guys don't know anything about the MBTA 3A. Those things like that, so that's where that amount came from.
so the person is now full-time, will be July 1st. Communications coordinator was full-time July 1st. Is that a salaried position or an hourly position? Okay. So we won't have this next year.
Yep.
Okay.
Two, new salaries, a bit more meetings than anticipated. Taking that from the assessor's salaries, they have.
How many meetings do we, what do we budget on? I've never really known. Do we have a?
Budget based on the prior year's expenditures, right?
Right.
I see.
But sometimes if we have like even like 1 or 2 extra meetings, like I don't have
I
a
was just
cushion in there.
Rather we had extra meetings, I don't know.
But there's also been a lot of pushback on the minutes. So every time that there's asked for revisions to minutes, that adds to the hours. So people need to be cognizant of that.
I think every year we kind of start a little bit earlier to go over capital first, and then the operating.
Well, and we've had to resort to having, what, the 60/30 person. Is
That doesn't cost
That
us,
doesn't cost.
That doesn't.
that's free. Well, it's
Part of
not
your bill.
free, it's not free,
Allocated.
everyone who has Comcast pays for it.
Okay. Just nothing's free.
Which will be, so that's up for, so it's every 10 years. So it's up for renegotiation. And so their subscriber base is dropping. It's gonna be an interesting negotiation.
The rates aren't dropping.
No, rates are not dropping. They're going up because they have fewer
Yeah,
subscribers.
the skyrocket.
People are cutting the cable.
Interesting, I was just
I
at my
haven't figured out how to
conference
do
this
it
week.
yet.
I was just at my conference this week and yesterday, when the DOR supervisors were there, they were actually talking about how to dissolve enterprise funds, specifically cable enterprise funds, because
Yeah.
it's just going away.
Interesting, I just had kind of a side thought. You don't see Gail up there with this Read AI, you suppose that's an attempt at recording minutes?
I don't know, we'll find out.
As I know that.
The recording's on.
It's me. It's Gail.
Oh, hi Gail. Oh, she's
Hi.
Manchester by the Sea.
Yeah, okay, okay.
Somehow I ended up being Manchester by the Sea 3. I don't know how it happened. Lucky me though, huh?
Yeah, I think something came, a big AI box came up when I signed into Zoom, so I think it's something.
Never mind.
Yeah, it's.
Becoming more and more, I know in PowerPoint, if you're doing a PowerPoint
Oh.
presentation, you can use the AI and have
Zoom
closed
you can do that.
captions
Yeah,
at
it's
the
all
same
about it.
time, right?
When I'm in Excel, the AI pops up.
It's actually
I
interesting.
said, and Word, I don't need help.
I used it
I
for
was looking.
looking at minutes on a meeting that was recorded, and it actually did a remarkably good job on the first pass. It's kind of scary up there.
No, we're using it for minute generation.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And it's-
You do have to proofread things.
No, you have to proofread it, but it gives a good first draft.
But is proofreading supposed to be focused on words that weren't easily recognized, or is it actually content, or is it both?
It can be both. Yeah. it's
They
great.
summarize it, I think.
So Greg, if Comcast doesn't. If Comcast changes, are we obligated to have 1630 here? Or is it a discretionary,
No, it's not an obligation.
we'd like to do it, but
It's a public
They,
service.
yeah.
Courtesy, and it helps us out because
it's good.
if we don't use it, somebody else will.
But my
Right.
point is if the,
I'm sorry, if
Manchester doesn't use it, some other town will use it. Because there's so much allotted to 1630 studios, right?
right. Yes. But if they don't, so, I mean, they depend on all four communities for the budget.
so could they conceivably come back to us and say, if you want to continue the service, we need payment, or we need to be compensated for what we've lost from.
There may be some sort of combination.
Yeah.
Right, some,
Because
yeah,
if they-
it's a possibility.
If they went away and we were looking for somebody to implement the, the AV there, yeah, we'd have to
I'm not familiar with 1630.
1623.
Sorry.
You can
Is the
feel-
cable,
I'm sorry.
public cable access.
Thank you.
They give,
Does it?
Sorry.
Oops.
Okay,
So number 3 is, there were 3 salary adjustments made this year, including these 2 to match the current employment market. So it's town engineer, my position in, the treasury collectors.
When were those salary adjustments made, Andrew?
I believe they were approved in January,
So start of the year, start of the calendar year?
yes, yeah, but I haven't paid them yet because I don't have money.
Well, that's what I was trying.
So looking at this, I presume there are extra funds in the building inspector salaries.
There are, yes.
because she was out sick for a while.
no,
Well,
because- go ahead.
Well, we budgeted for, the full-time, like the split, so like the assistant assessor was originally split between the assessor and the building inspector salaries, but then we bumped that up this year in the assessors to have a full-time assistant assessor in there, but we never reduced the building inspector, because we thought we were gonna be splitting it for the land use. And since that didn't start when we thought it was gonna start, there's additional funds there.
Used to be predominantly cell.
No.
No, it was like
No,
plan,
just
it's a
Shannon.
combination of planning and Concom.
Full-time land use clerk that
Yeah.
was supposed to support historic district, ZBA, planning board, Concom, and building. And it's
It's a working
not
progress.
working very well.
It's a working progress.
Not the applicants.
No, we have a person, but apparently,
Here we go.
my opinion is, we don't have the proper procedures written down for somebody to easily follow. And so it's, I mean, I've had several instances where agendas weren't posted for public hearings. Luckily, this last time it was caught, not by me. I wasn't paying attention. But yeah, that's the problem, it may be that 5 boards is just with all different procedures, just make it really difficult for one person to handle.
Maybe it doesn't reach.
And you've got, their boss isn't familiar with how all of the boards operate, so that adds to the confusion.
And it's your boss, the inspector.
No, planning director.
Oh. Never mind.
And number 4, really big dollars, $290 I need, because I miscalculated the inspector salaries. I did 2.5 instead of 3. Adjustment there. Number 5 kind of goes back to our land use department, and we're gonna restructured it, and so this is just moving those funds around to match what we're currently doing. So originally, we had budgeted that we were gonna be paying Hamilton for the conservation agent, but then we realized like we actually use the conservation agent more, so it would make more sense for us to be the host. And take her on our payroll, so this is moving some of those professional services to salaries. And then we also split out the planning director, the land use manager, as you'd say, and the land use clerk. So this bundles it all together into the right spots. Any questions on that? And move on. Number 6, snow and ice expenses, we overspent by $24,243. I mentioned this earlier, we had 14 snow and ice events. And it was mainly salting, sanding, their off hours, so, always happens overnight. Morning.
So one of the ramifications of global warming is we seem to have more ice storms than snowstorms.
Right.
Or some
Yeah.
Which are
variation.
more difficult to treat.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
The timing is everything for those.
Your story that is easier.
Yeah.
Right.
And so by doing this transfer, that means we won't go into deficit in the snow budget and have to pay for it next fiscal, correct?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so if we provide for it now, I won't have to raise it on the recap, because
Yes.
if I have to raise it on the recap, it hits our free cash twice.
Okay.
They kind of penalize you for not.
Oh, okay, got it.
And it also probably, does it skew the averaging we do, is it every 3 years?
It doesn't, because I just take the expenses.
Okay.
This is just covering budget number.
Good thing we didn't drop it for this fiscal.
So what you just said is already in the expenses. I mean, Maurice, it must affect our averaging. You're trying to just the point?
No, this transfer only affects the budget. I already have the actuals in there.
I see.
So I'm just matching up so that the budget is enough to cover the total expenses.
Yes, I
And when I do
understand.
the average, I take all these. Number
And
10,
what we budget is higher than the 3-year average.
Yes.
So that means that it's certainly not gonna go down next year. Like we didn't reduce it for fiscal
And
year
that's why I asked the question.
26.
I knew it
Yeah,
was higher than the average.
Yeah.
Matter of just adjusting the cash.
number 7 is health salaries. We had additional hours for our public health nurse and health department assistant. I'm still digging into this a little bit to get more details and information. I'm looking for additional information that. I was
And so
looking,
for
I
the
haven't
health
been here this week.
nurse, just related to what we call the flu shots. There's a variable, how many people do that. There's a new program that the health nurse is involved with, so it's a bump for hours of it.
So probably next year, we really ought to look at that being slightly higher budget amount. Yeah, yeah.
I thought we
Some of
had,
that was, that they're trying to get some grant monies, it's some regional services going, so it's a little bit of a flux, influx.
Strikes me as a regional service possibility.
I thought we had a revolving account for health department now, So-
There's for
the
the
vaccine.
vaccines themselves, but I don't think that covers for ours.
What does it cover?
The cost of the vaccines themselves.
Oh, okay. Oh, I assumed it was the whole thing. Okay. Got it.
Yeah, we actually set it up because the timing of trying to pay for the vaccines and then getting the money would always cross fiscal years. So having it just as a revolving account matches up.
So we pay for vaccines and then the insurance companies reimburse us. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, got it.
Number 8 is fire department equipment from fire salaries. We have some additional fire department salaries.
The good news,
Right.
the good news is that well with the salary.
So what's the status of the ladder truck? I was walking by School Street one day several weeks ago, and a ladder truck was being put on a flatbed trailer.
Yes.
A brand new spiffy ladder truck.
Yeah, I know warranty, I forget.
It's the
Get what?
oil gasket. They were doing a training exercise.
The chief is on.
Jake, are you on?
I am. Good evening.
Evening. Would you like to talk about the fire ladder truck?
Do I want to? No, but I will. So during a pump training, we had a pump failure, and there was a crack in one of the gaskets. But the way the truck is designed, the drivetrain runs through the transfer case into the pump. So therefore, we couldn't drive it back down to the dealer. So the repairs are underway. We hope to have it back. They said 2 weeks. I'm a realistic, so I'm going to hopefully say by July 1st. And we have Beverly Ladder 2 in the station until that returns.
I'm hoping we have it by the 4th of July parade.
Me too.
That's an impressive truck.
It is very
Correct.
impressive.
Thank you, chief.
Yep.
Auspicious start for this.
At least you found out now doing training instead of actually.
Fair point.
So these funds are requested to cover modifications necessary to convert the locker bunk rooms to accommodate separate genders. So we had one fighter leave beginning of last month. And they're interviewing, and there's actually several female firefighters, so it's a very realistic potential that could happen. We need separate quarters for that. Since this request is. Number 9 was town reports. They're even higher.
It's great. We need to have a talk about how you want to do the town report. We waste a lot of money. Because
This is the colored report with all the pictures and the finance report, the two together. that-
well,
That are picked up at town meeting.
combined, yeah,
Yeah.
total we spent 17,000 plus on the two combined.
That town annual report's kind of fancy in my book.
Well, and how necessary is it to have a printed?
Right.
Yeah,
That's-
And a small one. It's actually, isn't it cheaper to do the 8.5 by 11 instead of the
Oh,
over?
Oh, is it?
I believe so.
That's right, yeah.
I talked to my peers and they switched to the 8.5 by 11, like even for their finance committee book, they switched to 8.5 by
you can
11.
print it without pictures too. You don't need the pictures.
No, no.
Oh, that's
So-
an
so
answer,
it's-
maybe
it's-
that's. Oh, no, I don't take that.
Social media will light up.
Reading my mind.
But the FinCom report probably is needed for town meeting.
Yeah,
I mean,
Is.
Trying to do that on the
Change
phone
that.
is.
I would not change that. But with the other one digital,
8.5 by
I would do
11.
the other one digital. That's what I would do.
Yeah,
I would just have the town annual report available.
Well, it
digitally.
wasn't just, it wasn't mailed to residents.
No, it wasn't. We
You probably
made,
have extra
we
copies.
printed 500 copies maybe, and I think we have 350 left.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
People aren't taking it like they used to,
Right.
and I think we can just make it available online.
yeah, I like
Put a QR code with the finance committee report. And say,
Print it out yourself.
you can read it online. by-
There's no statutory thing that tells us it's gotta be hard copy.
No.
Yeah, as long as we archive it in a way that people can go back to prior years.
Right.
Yeah, which we do.
Cause
We
I
have a
do
whole
go
list
back
of
to
them.
prior years.
Yes, yes.
Exactly.
um,
Yeah.
But,
And if they really want it printed, that it's available online, they can really just take that PDF and send it to Staples.
or you can print it on your own
You
home
want.
printer.
So I
But-
think that.
Sounds like we ought to
But
just
this
do
thing
that.
could be
Yes.
8.5 by 11. and
Easily.
it'd probably be a lot cheaper.
I hope so.
So, yeah, that's a good
There's
point.
Potential that it would be.
Doesn't, it doesn't have to be that much.
I mean, we shortened the report.
You did.
Fix it.
Yeah. And that was
I will say there
commendable.
are certain people of an older generation, I'm thinking my mom, who probably would not go online and read a report, but definitely thumbs through the pages and looks at the pictures, but you can't please everybody all the time.
I would keep with the printed financial reports, because that's what people use at town meeting
Right.
for, to
Yeah.
follow the meeting, and then I would not change
And
that.
to read the stuff that they didn't read at home,
Right.
that we refer to.
Right? Read it for the first time.
But I do commend that it was a little shorter that way. I really think we can keep striving in that direction.
Number 10 is $11,000 for additional professional services for our HR shared services for Hamilton. Originally last year, we were trying to switch to 8 hours per week, so that's what we budgeted. But it's actually, we've been using 10 hours per week.
Did we budget 10 for 26? Okay,
It's not sure, we have to look at that.
yeah, because HR is important. It's getting, the world's getting much more complicated.
Yeah.
And you've got to have
Stay
somebody who
front of it.
knows the rules
Keep
involved
up
in
on
my
them.
book. Yeah, it's, you get yourself in a lot of trouble otherwise. Much more
I
expensive.
think one example of a complicated world is the legal expenses and the number of departments. It wasn't just land use. I mean, there are 15 different departments here used a little bit more legal service.
But I'm probably sounding old fashioned. When I started doing FinCom years ago, the things that were in, like actual lawsuits.
Oh, yeah.
We had a spreadsheet and there were 11 to 14 at any given time.
Remember the
Lawsuits.
carport on.
Exactly, over on Forster Road. That's a portable thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. But
Almost next to where you stay.
Oh.
Reed, two houses down. Bob Reed with the one with the Jeep and the Scout,
Oh,
the
right.
dog Scout.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
That's the one that had that thing on wheels.
I think-
Was.
I
Yeah,
think KP finally said if it's portable, we won't tax it, these cool deals on it. And we were gonna run it in the parade, didn't, but. But there were a lot of things that just hung on forever, and I think the big accomplishment to get those things off the deck.
well, in my opinion, is better for the boards to get the legal input up front
Yeah. Yeah.
than to wait for the lawsuits.
This year has been an expensive year. We've gone,
Yeah.
our monthly bills have been much higher.
Yeah, well, we
So,
still were messing with 40B, but that's not the big part.
That's not the big driver.
I mean, we've had a number of ZBA
also,
lawsuits and one of them was totally ridiculous. It was dismissed, but it still costs us because they, the appellant required that it to be in person, so our attorney had to go in person.
looking back, maybe you've already passed this, I think I was looking at it in the quarterly, but, information requests.
Oh, yeah.
Public record, and is there a focal point on how to maybe try and address that in the years to come? Like, is there a technology, a
It's-
service, something we can do to offload? I mean, it's the dollar cost, but then there's also the skilled labor that's diverted from what they really could be doing
It's-
to be screwing around.
Yeah, we heard it from Chief Fitzgerald. you know, that it's
Every,
got a lot of
every,
downtime.
every municipality is struggling with this.
Yeah.
Well, we don't have everything centralized, so it's not like you can go to a central place and pull everything off.
A lot of these, requests are multiple departments.
Right, that's what I mean,
People
if,
get it, like, you know,
Oh,
the
yeah.
assessor this part, and then I get this part, and then you
Yes.
get this part, and give it all back to me.
Yeah, one request hits
Yeah.
5 departments.
right,
Right.
And some of them are just so broad and open-ended.
Yep.
It's a time suck.
and it's probably the residents who complain about tax increases.
Yes,
It's an issue.
Yeah.
You know, so one way to try to combat is to, you know, try to put more and more materials on the website, so. people
Right.
can, you know, all we have to say is go to the website.
Yeah. all right,
You know, so having other minutes on and, things like
Frequent
that,
questions.
decisions and stuff.
Yeah.
right.
But it's the, you know, the open-ended request for any and all correspondence.
Mhm.
Text, emails we can centralize through our ITs. Right?
Yeah.
That is really all that we can.
It still takes them a while.
And then legal will say, well, we need to review those 1,000 emails because some of them may have confidential information. So that's where you see the legal bill. Get it like that. So
It's been helpful. I think Christina's done a good job, like, going back to those public records requests and not saying, can you be more specific? Or
Yes.
is there some one word that we can say? I mean, eliminate the hospital. It's been helping a lot.
Oh, good,
got a request going back to 1900.
Ridiculous.
All records dating back to not just.
and there's,
It's just.
there's no limitations on the public records request law?
So that's probably going to paper archive.
And we're limited on how much we can use.
It's ridiculous.
We don't have, most of those
Yeah.
things we don't have. I mean, some records. No, it's an issue. It's an issue. It's just, it's discouraging to staff, because it takes up so much time.
It's ridiculous.
To what end, you know, it's just, I feel like we're doing the fishing expeditions for people.
Maybe we need to have a little section in the Tide every so often that says in the past month,
Mhm.
this is how much public records requests cost us.
That's
To at
actually-
least
yeah.
raise people's awareness,
Taxpayer awareness column. you
yeah,
know?
yeah.
It's, here's what's going on for public records requests.
exactly. Might not make any difference, but, oh,
But it's probably also a thing to keep an eye on for technology coming
Yes.
along that can do this.
Speaking of technology, our next item is IT expenses. We had some backup equipment issues, so we had an unexpected cost of about $9,000 for new backup equipment. Additional costs for that backup service, we pay on a monthly basis, and also SaaS protection software as a subscription.
so we're in this consortium with Danvers.
Yes.
Is there any attempt with that group to plan things further in advance so that the towns know how much they might have to spend to be able to budget it in a fiscal?
Yes, there is.
Okay.
And I actually just had a follow-up meeting with our IT support, New Era. And he also works directly with Danvers as well as some of the other consortium members. And we're all looking at like, okay, we've installed the fiber, so now what's the next step? Like, how quickly can Danvers be ready for us to move our servers over there? And then if we do move our servers over there, what if our fiber goes down? Is there backup? Can we, so right now we're trying to negotiate with Beverly, see if we can make a loop for that. So there's like a lot of like moving pieces and step by step that we're trying to get through. We also have a lot of grants that we've been offering and receiving. So we're trying to manage all of that without adding additional FTEs as well.
Good, yeah.
But there's a long-term plan. I think like 2 years out, we're looking at moving those servers over. That'll be the end of our life. That'll be great if we can move all of that, because then that will start reducing the amount of computers that we'll have to replace, things like that.
And the timeline for that kind of change, is that?
A couple of 3 years.
Yeah, 2 to 3 years. We've been going out so far. So they're also don't know if you guys are aware, we got a grant through the state to change our website address to be more secure. So instead of manchester.ma.us, it'll be manchesterma.gov. So you have to go through a whole verification process. It's like six to 8 months just to get the domain name. But then a lot of our communication, that's right. Well, you know, instead of going to your junk mail, it should bypass all of those filters because it is verified. Secure domain, and only governments can get it, and things like that. So, long process.
Yeah, on the long term, the proportion should be a real plus.
It's already been so beneficial. It's been amazing.
Cybersecurity,
Cybersecurity has
yeah.
just been phenomenal.
That's
Like,
key.
we're way ahead of everyone else in the state.
Oh, good.
That's good. Nice.
Actually, we're looking.
That's the consortium's benefit,
Yeah.
being able to
Yes.
do that.
Yeah, and the state actually at the EOS department has been working with Colby, the IT director in Danvers, because he's just been so forward thinking and like, okay, like what can we do next? And like, how can we make cybersecurity even more secure? How can we get these smaller towns that don't have their own IT departments to get on board and like, you know, economies of scale, things like that. And so actually we're trying to schedule a tabletop exercise where the state's gonna come in and actually like hack into our computers.
Oh, wow.
So we'll all know like, oh my gosh, what's happening to my computer? Like, what do I do? Kind of like, you know, like fire drill.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
really smart.
So it'll be good. We're all looking forward to that. Yes, there's lots of IT stuff.
Yeah.
Going on there.
Okay.
The second one is I talked a little bit about those tax liens. So we'll see about $1,000. We have it in the treasurer's expenses. We had a couple more properties that wanted to settle this year. Fortunately, two of them paid up, so we're still keeping that 99%. It's really great.
So the tax lien is the cost of us to do the paperwork.
Reporting.
Advertising and all that. Yeah, the whole process. Number 13 is our property insurance. I don't know if you remember last year, we were looking at the marina policy
Yep.
because our general property insurance before used to cover like our peers. And then our insurance was like, nope, we don't do that anymore. You have to get a marina policy even though you don't have a marina. But this also does help us because it does cover our moorings as well, and it also covers our launch program,
Sorry, it also covers what?
the launch program.
That's good.
Yes, so that's work, but
Yeah.
the problem with this, like, I had to ask for a transfer last year because we entered into that policy after last town meeting. And so we didn't have it in this budget, but it is in FY 26.
So the launch more you don't cover the. That
was an exposure we had.
A little bit.
Yeah. And now we're covered, so it's great.
And just, Andrea, is that attributed to the launch service or is that part of the roll up that, is it, I don't know if you allocate a portion of that to it, but it is.
I haven't, because actually our policy amount didn't change from last year. I think it changed maybe $100. But that's just a normal insurance cost, so even adding our lunch
Really?
didn't increase it.
So we haven't had
So,
That actually surprises me.
yes.
Yeah.
It's in the policy, so
But basically bundled up. with-
they provide.
Yeah.
Right, so much else you're buying, you just tax on the bottom.
See, number 14 is police expenses. Todd actually sent out a memo about I can forward if you'd like. He reviewed, there's like additional vehicle repairs he wasn't expecting. He was hoping to use the town mechanic, but couldn't get the schedule in for that. So he ended up having to take vehicles elsewhere. Ammunition costs have like doubled. So for training and all of that, it's incredible.
There's reflecting some different usage we do. I mean, is it just
It's the
something?
same usage, it's just the cost of metal and the cost of production, the demand, maybe, I don't know.
I mean, this sort of thing makes me nervous. Because it's a department going and spending beyond their budget prior to any approval. And that it's coming to us after the money's spent.
I can sort of understand for a vehicle repair that just has to have.
Yeah,
So for their training to keep up certification.
radio
they need to-
upgrades,
I'm recalling Chief Fitzgerald mentioned something in his presentation at the chief about ammunition. Special.
but in this year's budget, right?
Not FY25.
Didn't the state change the amount? I think the state changed the amount of training required. As I recall. Is that right, Greg? The state changed the amount of training required for shooting exercises?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Yeah, the whole police reform,
Yeah, yeah,
they have significant ones. Various training requirements.
But I think to your point, Sarah, I mean, 15K is one thing, next year is 35.
So we could flag these soon.
Some of these are hard because the season subscriptions, a lot of them are due in May and June. So we don't know, and like the associations don't let us know, unfortunately, that,
Okay.
oh, like we're going up. So one of them this year, like, called and complained, and they're like, oh, we'll just expect a 5% increase going forward indefinitely. So I was like,
So it's
great,
that's
at
some
least you
number,
can
you know?
plan.
Cause it's not, cause it was a significantly higher amount than we were expecting, and there was no notice, no warning.
Yeah,
We should know that we're our budget process.
right, yeah.
It's a radio upgrade. Next one is the parking clerk. This. Actually looked up when we entered into that parking stick program. Remember when that started last October?
Was it-
November?
Wasn't it originally free? I
I
thought-
thought,
Well, the sticks are free, but they're guaranteed a minimum revenue amount based on our tickets.
oh, so we're not meeting the.
I didn't know that.
Right, so it's like that's what I'm looking into, actually, we need
So-
to go over that.
So when we signed on, we agreed that there would only be basically 6 months of the year.
Yeah.
And if we wanted to really 6 months. I think that's,
Then
so we just need to verify that with the vendor. That is what they are charging. So during the summertime, it is, we surpassed the minimum. But there is a cash flow issue here too, right? We have to pay that before we
we pay them and then they pay us.
pay us.
What? We pay them before they give us the revenue?
No, they give us the revenue and then we have to pay them a percentage of it.
Right,
It's kind of like how ambulance receivables work. They bill, they collect, they give us the money, and then they charge us 3%. And then we have to pay them next month.
So we do need to do a little more digging.
We do.
To make sure it's working the way we all.
and certainly the signs posted indicate the period during
Yes.
which it is, that it's radar enforced. It has the dates there. I don't remember what they were about, May 1st,
I think
October
it's
1st,
for something
October
like that.
31st, yeah.
I'm gonna ask you just real quick, this one. They
Sure.
pay us. And then
And then we have a minimum amount, like it's a calculation that they send us that we owe them a certain percent or
if
whatever
we
the
don't
calculation is
get.
of what, whatever they received. So like say they
Two things going on, there's a minimum,
Receiving money, are they?
pay online and they receive it and then they send it to us.
I thought all of the parking tickets were going through the police department.
We still are. So like the police department, they go in and they review the tickets and they'll approve them
But
or.
they have an online
them.
payment system.
I mean, it's probably like
I
the way.
need to get more into this.
Yeah,
It's probably the way like credit card works, if you were a store vendor, so you run a credit card, let's say somebody buys $1,000, right? You get $1,000 in your account. And then at the end of the month, the Visa, MasterCard, whatever it is,
they pay.
sends you a bill or they deduct from your account their 2.1 or 2.6%. It's just sort of like when it comes and when it goes.
is that.
I need to verify that. 'cause I wanna dig into it more because what I'm
I just like to
interpreting
know.
and reading is.
Let's
not-
let her just do more research on it, and come back at a future
Just say-
meeting.
I just find myself confused. I understand
Yes.
what Maury said, I do understand.
That's how I believe it works.
We'll put it
Make sure
on
that.
the agenda.
So just given, these are working well for the town.
So I'm happy with it. He feels it has definitely improved the amount of turnover of parking. It's
See,
it's pushing the employees off the street,
Yep.
which is one of the goals.
Oh, okay.
You know, certainly Stanley's is not able to park his customer cars on the
Yeah.
street all day long. So
Yeah.
he's cleaning up his lot, so he has more room for his the bigger customers. So it is, I think.
Everything I've heard is positive. It
And
just
it's
sounds like
bringing up
financially,
the-
we just need to make sure
Yeah, we
that,
need to
okay.
just fine tune the finances of it, make sure they're not charging us for these months that they're not supposed to be charging us for.
Yeah, it's like.
I did receive complaints recently from some residents that seemed to be
And also the-
surprised that two of the parking people were always together.
I've seen.
I've also seen them
Okay.
walking together.
Yeah, I've seen that.
I had the same thought, I was gonna follow it.
Yeah,
We don't need to be walking together,
exactly.
but it has allowed them to go to other
Further.
areas since these are so.
We need to do
So,
that street to get all the
yes.
construction vehicles off.
Yeah.
Okay.
the next one is building repairs for the library. Well, the library's had a rough year. With windows, bat removal and cleanup. Which is really expensive.
Not something I would like to do, I can tell you that.
Yeah,
It's like $8,000 to
yeah,
shoot the bats out of the.
Why do they have rooms in their salaries?
Yeah, where's all the library sounds?
I believe we budgeted, people at higher step than.
So someone leaves and a new hire comes in.
Oh, okay,
I
oh,
see, I see.
yeah, they have to turn out.
Since the library didn't get the grant, what do you perceive as being, so where do we go from here? I'm thinking library only in this question. Is that next budget we're gonna,
Let's put that off to another meeting.
okay, well, I was just curious what the
Plan
large,
B is-
yeah, sort of plan B,
They're working on something.
they're working on something, so we're
Yes,
gonna,
I've heard rumblings that Sarah Davis, who was just reappointed, has been working on options.
so next budget go around, we're gonna be.
Who knows?
Yeah.
We also. Nation, we just see how things work out with Mason,
Right.
in terms of community space, when the seniors are not using it. There'll be some significant space there for.
Thank you.
Sort of a sideline question, is the library maintenance or the library infrastructure managed by Chuck and Nate?
Yes.
Okay. It seems like, some things kind of jump up and down. I know it's an old building,
And it floods in the basement.
but when it jumps up and down, the numbers tend to compensate.
Yes.
It's hard.
And some of them could fall under.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So as part of that, quickly say, as part of the grant process, they did do a complete building assessment. Which will be helpful in the so it gives, identifies needs and they check the working program. So I think you'll start to see that going forward.
Number 17 is harbor expenses. We're anticipating paying $6,500 for the police academy for the deputy harbor master. We also had some additional funds related, like expenses related to the academy. And then there was about a $3,000 repair for the safe boat.
Yeah, I'm frustrated that when the deputy harbor master position was presented to us, there was zero discussion about a need to go through the police academy.
Right, because that's why there's gonna be a police officer or something.
Right.
So,
So this one frustrates me. I just,
So that was a new requirement from the states.
but that may only be required if you use the harbor department in a certain way. And what had been told to us by Bion is they didn't have police enforcement rights on the ocean, so they needed the police there. So this is inconsistent.
Those conversations, I think, preceded the post, the police reform change. To be a certified harbor master, you now have to be certified, you have to be police academy trained. And that is the new requirement.
And I guess why do we need our harbor master to be certified? That would be my question.
That's a
Right.
fair discussion. and
Yeah.
that's a-
Is the
But if
implication
you,
that
in
with
the
that,
discussion we have, is it just simply required that?
Only if he's certified, you don't have to have a certified harbor master.
so is the,
No, I misunderstood you then. I thought you said harbor master has to be certified?
To be certified, you have to go.
Oh, to be certified.
does that mean that they wouldn't require a ride-along police officer and they could do enforcement? Okay. That's totally-
Right.
It changes the whole model.
Yes.
So at some point you need that.
It's a conversation for a different day.
But it does seem like this, you know, in the context of the budget that we already approved for FY 26, more police and harbor master now is no longer relevant in some ways. Like it's recovering police officer time on the harbor and it's potentially not needed.
Deputy harbor master, harbor master.
So it's one, so there's one. So
okay.
one person can't be on
Right.
at a time.
Well, and the other thing that Bion said to me, and I don't know how valid this is, but says he spends all his time doing administrative. So one of the things we have to look at in the harbor department, is there a more cost-efficient way to cover a lot of the administrative functions that might be required? It shouldn't be a harbor master probably doing some of the things that he's doing, but he's doing them because he's the one that started up the harbor master's office.
So that
Yeah.
wasn't in that audit. Was
The audit report was having the harbor master go into the fire department. That one I don't get.
I know Brian's been working on like the administrative, so I know a lot of the grant stuff is, working with Sue Croft on, so Sue
Good.
Croft's gonna be taking that over.
Good, yeah.
So it's like, it's
But even all the mooring stuff, all of that stuff, that's administrative stuff that you could hire a clerk to do in my mind, not knowing what's involved, but
Take a look at, is there some capacity in the.
Right, yeah.
that could provide support?
so that's something we need to look at with next year's budget.
So just a quick question, is the budget that we're now 3/4 of the way through include both the deputy and the harbor master? I noticed the
Yeah,
number
that's
is
what this
190.
is.
Yeah, I noticed the number on the quarterly report was 197, and last year it was 134. And we're 3/4 of 4 into that. So are we looking probably at about 240, 230 end of the year for both those on board? And is that a long-term plan? Just trying to figure out like burn rate of the harbor.
Well, that was in the budget.
Yeah.
I mean, this is all the discrepancies between what was in the annual budget and what the year-end numbers are gonna be.
But I think you're asking them going forward.
Well, it's in that third quarter report, what the annual was.
Right,
Yes.
so to
Right.
date, last year at this time, it was about 135,000, if I remember, I looked at this earlier. And currently it's a little closer to 197. 195. So last year it was 132 in salaries and now it's 195. We're 3/4 of 4 through the year, so we're probably gonna be between the salaries, probably gonna be up north of about 230, 240. Okay.
Yeah, it's in there.
So
Do
it
you
just
have
goes
that
back to
annual
what's the
number?
cost of running the harbor and
you know,
And that's
they're all in kind of different places sometimes. It's hard to get a roll up of the whole thing, but
We'll put that on for a future
Yes,
agenda item.
would you please? Yes.
Yep. Which would include police coverage and everything.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, another way to think about it, not advocating that the harbor be an enterprise fund at all, but if we had an accounting look at it like it was. That's kind of, you know, where are the revenues coming in, what are the expenses coming in, if we allocate. Healthcare and other stuff kind of off here in light pencil, what does the whole thing kind of look like? That's the end.
Yeah, I think one of our challenges is the revenue is reported through certain departments, but the expenses are not. Like if you look
Right,
at the
yes.
revenue coming into the town clerk.
Right.
It's covering expenses in other areas.
I mean, you do that with Cheryl pretty effectively, Parks and Rec. I mean, we sort of kind of know what revenue is, we know what expenses are, I know it splits 2 years. But that gets modeled out pretty cleanly. The harbor, if we could use the Parks and Rec template for the
But
harbor,
not
that
have
would
it
be
be an
good.
enterprise fund.
Exactly, none of
Well, I
that.
have no problem. with it being an enterprise.
So we don't want an
For it.
enterprise fund.
No,
No. The revenue that comes in exceeds the budget and we want to be able to spend that money on other general fund expenses.
that's what we do in the sewer and water.
Well-
enterprise fund right now. We reimburse the general fund for those appropriations that are in the general fund.
No, but we want to be able to have it come to other things, not
Right.
not just
Harbor.
related to the harbor. We want non-harbor, all of the beach stuff and stuff, we want non-harbor to go to cover our town expenses because we make so much money.
On the beach side, you're in the harbor side, that's not the case.
Harbor's in the red.
Well, we need to look at that then.
Harbor's a
Because we
low
should be
asset, but it's not
increasing-
a revenue
We should
generator.
be increasing the mooring charges if,
They're kind
you
of
know.
capped, they're kind of capped.
Well-
Waterfront is expensive. no matter
let's
how you-
talk about that at a later meeting.
Yeah.
I don't wanna be here all night.
Eighteen is legal and other professional services. I did note here that I also have a reserve fund request of 54,000. So it's really a deficit of 57, for legal expenses. I sent out that legal.
Yeah.
Yes,
That's helpful.
Yep.
Yep.
Spending on that, so several lawsuits, public records requests, 40B, senior center, CPC conservation restriction, the Central Street culvert, some HR related expenses as well in departments.
yeah, I saw we had one in the police department. I saw that in the Gloucester Times.
Talk to the lawyers about rates that they charge. And, you know, what's the charges? The town as a entity negotiates any rate issues with
They have like a standard municipal rate. At my conference, actually, one of the lawyers from KP Law was talking about their rates and how you know, other resources to call and like things that you can look at before you call. She's like, I understand. She's like, our rate is this, but if you go to a private law firm or if you have a lawsuit and like there's some cases where we have to be careful that if we lose, we're on the hook for their lawyer fees and their lawyer fees are like 4, 5 to 10 times what we're paying. And so just be very cognizant of that because, you know, we just we're all thinking like, oh, well, this is our hourly rate, so that must be their hourly rate.
I'm not aware of any law firm, large
Interesting.
law firm that has negotiable fees.
No.
I feel like it's very much like-
Up a different way. It's a multiplier. One number goes down, the other number goes up.
Peter's looking to hang out a shingle, I think.
Well, I was actually looking at it a different direction, which is, you know, the becoming ever more. The bottom line becomes larger and larger for the law firm. When you reach a certain point in the bottom line, you can, you know, there can be tiered rates. I'm very aware of tiered rates,
Absolutely.
you know, and rates for different kinds of services too. So I didn't know whether, here, whether we've used any of the, we used any approach in our discussions on tiered rates or overall spending or.
I know I haven't been privy to any discussions about that, but I do know that we do have some, depending on who we're using and what specialization, it is a different rate than our like, primary town
Well,
council.
yes, the litigation is more expensive than standard advice and guidance.
And then there's other like, conservation research project, someone specializing that, that would be a lower rate than.
So
The rate is, it's a pretty good rate. I think it's too. I'll have to look it up.
Okay, no,
We can
I'm
mention
not
that.
asking you to do that, I'm just asking,
Not a going rate.
how do we look at this? Do we simply pay a rate, or do we look at the overall client, we're $160,000 client or something on. This is, and there are different models out there with law firms. I've calculated a few of them, because I've been a general counsel for a business. I just know whether that's at all where we approach it. You can say at 100,000, it's overall rate to the firm, and 150, it's a different rate. I mean, because you are essentially.
That's what you're saying.
Tiering of my business.
That's just the
I
point.
mean, I didn't know whether you approach it at all that way, because
We-
I
we
see
have it,
this
so that's-
as we all do, it's continuing to grow, and when I took a look at the sheet and looked at the number of different departments. It's not as though it's just, land use.
Used by one area.
Yeah,
or-
exactly, I mean,
Yeah.
overall, the town meeting was $12,000. I'm,
But what you also have to remember is that the people on all of the boards are volunteers with varying levels of expertise. Your town employees do not have legal expertise. So I think it's important that we use legal services more rather than less to avoid the litigation.
I have
When-
no
when
hesitation, that's why I'm
appropriate.
talking about rates.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, if you
When
see
appropriate.
this will be a $200,000 budget and but you can talk about how to structure the rates as the size of the client grows for them. And I think that's worth thinking about and considering.
Yeah, and that's the point. I really thought of that.
So that's the end of the interdepartmental.
Do you want
What-
a motion to
That's what I'm thinking, to motion to approve,
everything on these 3 pages?
no, through 1 through 18.
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry, that's right.
Interdepartmental.
Between
no,
the
that's the department, yeah.
department listed under each item in the amount listed under each item.
So moved.
Andy moves, do I have a second?
Second.
Lori seconds. Any discussion? Tom,
Yes.
Andy,
Yes.
Lori,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
Sarah votes yes. Okay. That was approved. Next 3 are reserve fund transfers.
The next one relates to the one that we were just talking about, the legal expenses. Number 20 is town hall electricity. Higher than anticipated energy costs. I know we've talked about this in previous meetings about, us using Happy Hollow and having rebates and have like billing issues and things like that, but like we're finally getting away from Happy Hollow. So I think going
Wasn't so
forward. Hopefully it'll be a little bit easier to project.
Yeah.
I was curious, if with the new HVAC system that's in town hall, is there any kind of central control to that, where you set occupied and
Yes.
unoccupied?
Oh,
Set
well,
points?
yeah, it's a pretty sophisticated.
Yeah.
Programmability
Okay,
to it.
is that something that Nate is plugged into, or?
Yes.
Yeah.
It just seems to me that when I come into town hall, there were some offices that are ultra warm in the winter. And the conference rooms are ultra warm in the winter. And then ultra cool in the summer. Now, I feel this room is cold.
Probably because it's
So-
blowing at us.
I mean, you know, and so it just seems like if there was better central control,
Well, we can certainly take a look at the.
yeah.
thing.
I know he has it set, so like, we know when
He's got
tell
bats
he
and
switched.
bits.
To cooling, and then, a certain date he switches to heat, and there's like only a certain range that each office can change it to.
Okay,
Um,
okay.
So even
I think-
the room thermostat, it won't go hotter than X and colder than Y.
Okay, so there's a range, okay.
So there is,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right,
Well,
And then-
there have been predicted, like your office, right?
My office, for example. I don't know if you've been in my office.
Yes.
It's small with 2 desks and, previous custodian found out that if like one of the units kept on like, I don't know if it was blowing a fuse like or needed a part or something, some kind of temperature gauge kept on like going on it and I just could not figure out why. Well, then he traced the coils from the one unit, so we have several units out there that cover certain rooms, and I guess each unit has at least like 2 units connected to it. And he found that my office was connected to the hallway downstairs on the 1st floor, so having one unit cover
Two very different.
very
environments.
different. Is causing a lot of issues.
So you were running hot,
So. Or vice, yeah, or like
Big
super cold.
extremes.
Yeah.
Cold.
And then like we would try and adjust it on ours, so like
Didn't
we would
work.
turn it to heat, cause
Yeah.
we're like freezing. But the hallway is still on cold and then the unit is like, what's going on?
Yeah.
Can't do that, so now we know we can't switch it to hot and cold, we just end up just shutting it off. So. But I was like, oh, that. I
Definitely,
don't know.
it would benefit from some fine tuning. It's, overall, there's much more fresh air in the building than there ever was. So overall, the conditions have improved,
but the
but it's been expensive.
expenses are more, right?
Yes.
We need to look at solar,
yeah,
we really need to look at solar. I mean,
I was really thinking like, what about the solar panels over the parking lot, cause you don't have to
You
snow
could
plow them and, like,
put it on
Beverly.
the roof. That's a big roof.
What's the reason why we fixed it?
You haven't looked
It
at
depends on the
roof.
angle.
there's a
Yeah,
dormer
roof
on the
is
south
south.
side, but which kind of foils things a little bit, but there's still some
The roof.
area there. And even if you put it without like an east exposure and some on the west, still you're getting.
It needs another.
Yeah.
The tires for sure.
Yeah.
The last one is this overtime salaries. If you remember from Todd's budget presentation, we talked about how last year we budgeted just for contractual overtime. And so this is the difference of, cover it, backup, training coverage, backup coverage, people that are out.
But with the new staffing, we weren't supposed to have to cover everyone who was out. Is that working? You don't know.
Expenses and
That's, again, that's the discussion.
Okay, fine.
what is the balance of the reserve fund?
0.
So now it's 0.
This is 150 grand and that's what we
Close to
made. That's what I
yes.
just added up.
That's why I had to split that legal
Oh.
expense.
I see.
So
So, yes, it uses up all the reserve fund. There are some knowledge left over from operational expenses.
And do we have a sense of how much that is? Rough, round.
looked at that, I was looking at the capital, I know capital, we're gonna have about 411,000, then we'll be closing out to fund balance. So it's gonna be good.
Okay, do I have a motion?
I move to
Finance committee.
approve the proposed transfers. and Items 19.1. Total. $1,000 from reserve fund.
Didn't know. Maureen seconds it. Any discussion? Take a vote. Tom,
Yes.
Andy,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
Lauren,
Yes.
Sarah votes yes. Status of capital projects.
Yes.
He gave us this nice spreadsheet. I went through it and I kind of came up with Few more things that I thought could go.
Yeah, there,
I'm sorry, yes.
One was the community center lease.
Yep.
And then I didn't understand, like, under the paramedic monitor, why there was a little piddly amount left.
Came in under what we,
yeah, so
So
that,
that can go.
yeah, those can be
Okay.
closed down.
if you want, I,
All those little ones can go that have leftovers.
right, so access control cell monitoring, $185 can go.
Okay.
I wanna check with Chuck, cause I think that, for compost facility and transfer station.
Yeah, I wondered about that, where it could go.
There's some monitoring left to do, but we definitely don't need $91,000. And then the barn utility garage is gonna be closed out, the rest of the backhoe will be closed out. I already noted the conservation land management plan, the library walkway, the library building construction grant match, more Sweeney parking lot, no wake buoys. All of those can be.
What about the water truck replacement? I was confused by this. We had a $50,000 budget, we spent 28,600, but have 21,392 left.
Excuse me.
Yeah, I'm gonna check on that because
It seems like we got a vehicle,
we have a vehicle.
we didn't authorize two.
No, but sometimes what happens is that, we'll buy the truck and then they'll add on like a, modification, so. we
Okay,
have to do that separate.
okay, so you'll check on that. Like a plow or something. Or bed to truck, to bed to the truck.
Yeah.
Rubber rolling mill.
Yellow
Why
paint.
does that dredging account work? I would carry forward balance of 185,000.
And
Did it from the prior
allocated
dredge,
in each year. That's a small amount, it's almost ceremonial.
Yeah, so this year we didn't put any in it, but we've carried over, cause it's just an ongoing expense, like, to get to the next.
I see,
like,
I
dredging
see.
project.
Yep.
Next project.
Yes, exactly, that's why I was wondering what this was.
Yes. So this is all the expenses leading up to that, permitting, the engineering, the soil testing, the. Like that.
And the backhoe line, is that a recent appropriation? That seems like a small amount.
It is, I'm closing that.
Oh, good,
That's
okay.
right,
Yes.
Didn't think we could get it back over 14,000.
Could we just go
That'd be great.
down them until, just one by one for just a sec, so. So I can keep track of what we actually,
So she had a column that,
I have the column and she's marked to close out, but you've added a few by your comments, I believe.
I've added a few. I can send this out with those ones that I've just
Would-
mentioned
would-
as
would
well,
you-
yeah.
That'd be
Yep,
great, I
I
was
can
just
do
trying to
that.
keep up with the conversation.
yes, yep.
in the
And I did
note,
total
did you
those.
look at the no wake buoys also?
Yes, that's be closed out. And so all of those I listed, which I'll send out to you, total about $411,000.
Great.
And what happens to these closeout amounts?
Free cash. Fund balance, whatever you wanna call it.
Yes.
Does that make it available in the next fiscal year? Yes.
Fiscal year 27.
Yep.
26.
Oh, 26.
Yes, because I'll
Yeah,
close
they
it
have a
June
trophy.
30th and then I get free cash certified like in the fall. And that'll be available for special town meeting or April town meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's for,
So you can
We-
use it for FY 26 or 27.
but we've already approved FY 26 without using this money.
Right, but if you approve anything in special town meeting this year or
Yeah,
next
just
year's
special
town
town.
meeting, right, then that would be, right.
I'm with.
if the rotunda needs more money.
Yes, okay, okay.
There's
Well, that's
for
what-
instance.
We've got 400.
That's what I was thinking about, you know.
Do you have any updates for us? Greg?
Transitioning with Tony, he's spending a couple days a week in these last 2 weeks. 4 days of overall. And it's going well, meeting with department heads, with him. As well as just general project. From that point. So I think that's going pretty well. And, it's drinking from a fire hose. He's swallowing and still breathing, so that's all good.
So he's still busy doing the hunt job. I mean, he's
He's doing 3 days a week in 2 days. At this point. And burning up some vacation.
Is he
time.
wondering what he got into?
It's towns are,
Different.
the towns are different but very similar. You know, so
Yeah.
you change the name of the characters, but every town has similar folks and similar dynamics. And, sure, there are unique parts. Some things that I think we can benefit from what they do not.
And
He's
from
from
his-
that we do that he's
and from his exposure, has he been noting some things that you've sort of, sort of stand out in his opinion about our operation?
I thought that maybe in a July 9th meeting would meet with him.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah, I'd be interested in his impressions.
yeah, we'll certainly. Safety building, we are looking at the condo docks. I suspect it's gonna be delayed because of the recording. We kind of ran into this personally, when I bought into a new kind of a development. It took months for this condo docs to get certified.
Why are they so slow when you can record a team?
I don't know. I don't understand. It was a new condominium documents to get scrutinized.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it takes
Make sure
longer,
they're legal.
yeah, so it takes longer for them to get recorded. That's probably gonna hold it up.
But so PNS has been executed.
Yeah, this is fine. We've
And
accepted the
funds have-
deposit.
Okay, so funds are starting to be transferred, so we're on the track.
Yes, yes, yeah, it's all on a good track. Getting that PNS signed was the big milestone. And that sets the parameters of the condo docs. So I'm optimistic that it will proceed. I was really hoping to close before I left, but that's not gonna happen. So,
But
Because of the
hopefully
condo dock.
yeah,
But hopefully the summer or fall.
oh, definitely.
But in that capital project list, you had an extra 10,000?
10,000 was paid out.
Right.
Leaving 990.
Okay, but the purchase price is still the million.
Yes.
Oh, okay, okay,
Don't give them a 10,000.
okay.
Talked a little bit about the culvert project. Yeah. Some main updates.
Beach and all that activity is queued up well
Yeah,
for the
because
summer.
Cheryl does a great job getting her summer help in every year. I know it's a big operation.
There's a lot of moving
A
people.
lot of moving pieces.
I was surprised, I was there last Saturday. Must have been 12 people. And it was raining.
You were at the beach.
So-
And I'm
It poured rain.
Oh, I got drenched, don't worry.
It's not here 12:30, you came down.
It was fine, I got to the edge of Mascanoma Park
Yes.
and it poured, and then the train came through. I've never been, and Andy was out bike riding, I've never been so wet in my life, but I'm assuming it's because they didn't know what the forecast was so weird.
Right.
Yeah, wasn't supposed to be that bad,
So, yeah, she'll send people home.
that's what I wondered, I figured after I left the beach, when it
Right.
started really raining, they probably all went home.
But yeah, it's a crapshoot, right?
Yeah.
Interesting, there was a memorial service at the beach club and they were totally packed for parking.
Oh,
So
I
they're
saw the
asking-
cars
they're
there,
asking
yeah.
Anybody with town residence takers to go over and park in the
Um,
beach lot.
Is that when
And
there were cars in
That's
the
why
lot?
we were all parked up against the
Mhm.
fence. And you're absolutely right, it poured at about 12:45 and it was a wet transit.
Oh, it was bad.
That was pretty-
Okay. That it?
Yeah.
Okay, so now we have 3 sets of minutes to approve.
I like such too.
Did you see the ones I sent? For April 28th?
Are there three? I looked at two.
Yes, April 28th,
Oh, 28.
I sent earlier,
Oh,
I sent with the agenda.
I don't read your emails.
I see.
The eight ones from April 28th were the meeting before annual town meeting.
Ah, okay.
They were quite detailed minutes.
They were your minutes.
Oh, okay.
They included our votes.
Yeah.
And then that we voted to adjourn at the end of the town meeting.
Yeah, yeah.
We're not detailed.
Okay, so you want to approve some of these minutes?
Yeah, I have some changes to the March 5th minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There goes the budget.
So on bullet 5, it said at which point the town would only need to pay the normal cost of $178,000. And then I added, and premiums for retirees can be paid from trust assets. And then I deleted the next bullet because I think that's what it was trying to say, but it wasn't clear. It was saying establish a trust and we already had the trust.
I see.
And then on the 7th bullet, it said, the chair indicated the town would be investing and I said plan to invest. And result in a payoff in fiscal year 28, I changed base to depending on trust earnings. And then under the next bullet, I said, Mr. Federspiel had included instead of projected the payoff of OPEB in his long-term facilities financing. That was it.
They're approving that based on change in prepaid.
Yeah, you want to vote it as change?
Everyone,
Yeah, you- that one.
Do you want a motion to accept that as amended?
March 5th, March 31st, and April 28th, with
So
no
moved.
amendments to March
That you just
31st or
presented
April
to the
28th.
meeting?
Yep.
Yes, so moved.
Second,
Second,
a vote,
yes.
Indy,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes,
Maureen,
Yes.
Sarah votes yes. So our next meeting, we have a meeting scheduled for July 9th. Which we originally did because we figured we were gonna have to do the year-end stuff then. But we did it tonight. But I'm thinking we wanna go ahead with that July 9th meeting to meet the new town administrator and to kind of get his budget schedule and to kind of maybe explain to him our FinCom policies that we've created over the last few years. You know, like the reserves and does that make sense, or do people wanna do that later?
I maybe iffy that's first date.
You better be I mean, we can
I'd
wait,
rather do it sooner, I'd rather do it tonight.
okay,
I don't know if others have problems with that. Dee?
No, I think it's a good idea to start transitioning and getting to know each other.
Having this
It's
early.
sooner than later.
yeah, cause we don't really know what his schedule, you know, how he does his budget stuff. And what his expectations are, and that will kind of help us determine our
I'm fine with that.
meetings. You know, when the next meeting after that, okay,
I might be able to dial in remote. Yes.
This is.
So it's the ninth, a go, are we a go for the ninth? Yeah, okay, 7 o'clock, usual?
Yeah. Hopefully Peter and Tom and I have one this year.
Now I have also. No, I don't. When is there another one scheduled?
No,
Do you want to schedule another, like, in terms of in the summer at all, or?
that's
Well, help
why,
me to know it now, that's the.
well, we don't normally meet in August.
Right, I didn't know if that was, there's no change to that.
The only reason we would meet in August is that if the new town administrator said something that made it appropriate for us to meet in August.
Okay.
That makes sense. I mean,
I'm right with you. I just want any early predictions, because August life gets busy. And
I know.
don't what to make meetings. You want a standby date in August, just in case? No? Okay.
and Greg, I just wanted to thank you for all of the
Easy.
trials and tribulations of putting up with the finance committee and contributing to the finance committee.
Yes.
You're the volunteers, it's impressive the amount of time and hour and dedication all of you have. So, kudos to all of you.
So thank you
Thank you.
for all the answers, all those hundreds of questions. It's,
Patience.
Not
Ridiculous questions.
Yeah,
It's been a really good experience, Greg, I have to say, for those of us that started, before you
2011.
arrived.
You've been
Yeah.
before I
Yeah,
started.
yeah,
I mean, world has improved.
it's really,
Where I work. Easy.
Yeah.
it's been a great ride,
Yeah.
so thank you.
Thank you.
So we have some cookies.
Are we gonna adjourn?
Okay, let's have a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn.
Second, yeah,
All in favor?
aye.
Oh, good, thank you.